And it is a big stereotype, but it's also really true. Germans are really rigid with their time schedules, and Germany works on a very tight schedule. Hey guys, it's Graham with AuPairWorld, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you the complete guide to being an au pair in Germany. Before I jump into the video, if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to our channel, and let us know in the comments what kind of videos you would like to see next. That being said, let's jump right into the content of this video. Germany is one of the most popular au pair destinations, and my host city of Munich is pretty much at the top of the German au pair wish list. There are so many great things about being an au pair in Germany, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you a complete guide to make your au pair stay in Germany successful and just how to do it. Germany and German culture in general is very different, surprisingly. Very different from pretty much every culture I've ever experienced, and if you don't know how to navigate it a bit and navigate German way of life, it can be a bit awkward. So in today's video, that's exactly what I'm going to be explaining to you guys, breaking it down step by step, all the things you need to know. So without wasting any more time, let's jump into the first thing you need to know, which is start learning German now. Actually, yesterday. Start learning it yesterday. If you're gonna be an au pair in Germany, you obviously need to learn German. Now, the good thing is a lot of people in Germany speak English, at least enough English to get by. But if you don't know German, it's gonna really take away from the experience and just make your life a lot more complicated. Now, German is an extremely difficult language. It is not simple. It's very, very difficult, and it takes a long time. So you need to start learning it ASAP. I consider myself pretty apt with languages. I tend to learn languages quite quickly, and I've been studying German for 2 years now, and I'm barely A2. Now, if you're wondering what A2 means, in Europe, they operate on a language scale from A1 being absolute beginner to C2 being native level in that language. So A2 is not absolute beginner, but it's also not that great. You can hold basic conversations, but not much more. To give you some perspective, after 2 years of learning Spanish, or about 4 months of living in Spain, I had a B2 level in Spanish, which is a pretty high level. With B2, you can do pretty much everything in Spanish. You even start to think in Spanish with B2, whereas German, I'm still in the beginner level after 2 years of studying it. It's not at all a simple language, and Germans are generally not that patient in my experience when you're trying to speak German. If you speak English and you're struggling with German and they speak English, generally they're just going to want to swap over to English. So it can be a bit difficult to learn German even living in Germany, but if you put your mind to it and put some effort into it, it's definitely something you can do. The second thing to your au pair guide in Germany is to pack warm clothes. I know this one is super cliche, and I heard it all the time before I came to Germany, but it is true. Germany is a really cold country generally, and the winters are extremely long. So you need to pack plenty of warm clothes. I myself come from a relatively warm country or a warm climate in the south of the US, and then I lived in Spain for the past 1.5 years, which is obviously a lot warmer than Germany. And I thought that I would be okay in Germany with the temperature, but man, I was not ready. One thing people always told me is whatever you buy is not gonna be good enough for German winter. Like it's really cold, you'll have to buy stuff in Germany. I didn't believe it. I thought, oh, this will be fine. I bought like what I thought was a good coat, some gloves. It wasn't enough. I had to buy an extra set of gloves in Germany, extra coat, thermals, hats. I mean, it is so cold and the weather is really quite depressing. So that's definitely something you should prepare for. Now, of course, Germany does have a summer just like every other country where it will be warm. But from my understanding, in most parts of Germany, the winter goes from like early November until early May-ish. So it's a really long winter, and you definitely need to have plenty of clothes to prepare for it. Winter clothes are quite expensive. They're generally not cheap, so that is another thing you should think about, which leads me directly to my next point, which is to save some money. Germany is many things, but cheap is not one of them. Now, if you're coming from Northern Europe, think, Denmark, Sweden, any of the Nordic countries in general really, Germany's probably gonna be a bit cheaper than what you're used to. But if you're coming from anywhere else in the world, Germany is gonna be quite expensive for you. Obviously, just like any other country, country, the bigger cities with the more resources and connections are gonna be the more expensive cities. For example, my host city of Munich is insanely expensive, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the most expensive in all of Germany. Unfortunately, that doesn't really change the fact that you're still paid normally 70 euros here in Germany, just like you would be in Italy or in Spain, where it's a lot cheaper. I've said this in other videos on my channel, and I think on AuPairWorld's channel, but my 70 euros in Spain could go so much further than 70 euros here in Germany. Honestly, it's not comparable. Here in Munich, I spend almost 70 euros a month just on the S-Bahn, a 15-minute train ride from my village to Munich city center. That's not buses, that's not the metro, that's just the above ground train, the S-Bahn. That is insane. For some perspective, in Madrid, I paid 20 euros a month to get access to every single mode of public transit in the entire state of Madrid. This means I could get on a train in the north of Madrid and ride for 2 hours all the way to the south for the same 20 euros that I could ride one metro stop. I mean, it was incredible, and obviously that's cheaper than normal, but everything is expensive here in Germany, and that's something that you should definitely plan for. If you're a travel lover like myself, even traveling domestically in Germany can be quite expensive. Due to regulations by the German government, flying inside of Germany is way expensive. A 1-hour flight from Munich to Hamburg would cost well over 100 euros, whereas a 1-hour flight from, say, Seville to Madrid would cost perhaps in the 50 to 60 euro range. Groceries are not terribly expensive in Germany, but as an au pair, you're not going to be buying groceries, so that doesn't really matter to you. Eating out, on the other hand, is normally very expensive. Here in Munich, a decent lunch is going to cost anywhere from, I would say, 10 to 25 euros, depending on where you go and what you get. Needless to say, doing that a couple of times a week, plus public transit, you will be out of your pocket money like that. So be really careful with how you spend your money and make sure you come to Germany with some savings. Next on our guide to being an au pair in Germany is be on time. Again, this is a huge German stereotype where we hear all the time, the Germans are so timely. And it is a big stereotype, but it's also really true. Germans are really rigid with their time schedules, and Germany works on a very tight schedule. In my experience here in Germany, if someone says to be somewhere at a certain time or to do something in a certain way, that is how you should do it, and that is where you should be at that certain time. That is not my experience being a nanny in the US or an au pair in Spain. Generally, if people said, hey, do this for X amount of time, it was more or less, kind of an approximation. But here in Germany, if someone tells you to do something at a specific time or in a certain way, that is exactly how and when they expect you to do it. I have to be honest, this one really gets under my skin because sometimes the Germans will have rules or time schedules that don't even make sense. It's like they just have them just so they can say they have a rule for that situation. And it really gets under my skin as an American, where we are more questioning as a culture and we're not so likely to be so strict with our schedules. Nevertheless, this is definitely something you should think about if you are not such a timely person. Germany might not be the country for you. Lastly, on my guide to being an au pair in Germany is to set your expectations. Oftentimes in America, we think of Germany as just the pinnacle of glamour and success and wealth, and in a lot of ways, Germany is a really fun, interesting country, but it's also not just a dream. There is work in Germany. The Germans love to work, and there's plenty of work to be done. Obviously, Germany is not just a tropical wonderland. We see those beautiful pictures all the time of the snow and the little villages that are just covered in white, and it's really beautiful, but the reality is half the time it's just raining. So you really need to set your expectations before you come to Germany, or else I think you'll let the stereotypes ruin your experience. One expectation that I was not expecting was German au pairs work quite a lot. As an au pair in Spain, the work that I did with each of my host families was more just like hanging out with the kids rather than working. Whereas myself here in Germany and most of the other au pairs I talk to actually have tasks at home and specific things we have to do with the kids. Again, this is very German that we have specific things to do, but this is something you should be aware of if your style is more just like living with the family and that's your work. Germany, on the other hand, takes the work bit a bit more seriously. The great thing about Germans is, as much as they love to work, they also really love to play. So you're gonna have plenty of holidays here in Germany, plenty of time off where you can go explore your city or explore this beautiful country. If Germany is the right country for you, it can be the experience of a lifetime, as it is one of the most unique places in the world. I hope this guide has been helpful for you in your research to become an au pair in Germany, and if you have any questions, be sure to let us know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be sure to see you next time. Muchas gracias y hasta luego. Ciao.